Hey everybody, Mo Friggin back again. I'm back here in the call room, so we got a little bit of medical stuff today, but I really want to talk about my EDC journey and how I got into this stuff and my first real EDC knife. And so let's get this show on the road. So I'm an Eagle Scout, and I've always liked knives, of course, and I had Swiss Army knives when I was a kid. Here's my grandfather's. This is actually a Wenger knife, and the scissors are broken. I've held on to that of his. So we've always had, Victorinox and Swiss Army knife type tools around. So I've always kind of liked knives, but when I was, a new attending, I guess I'd been attending for a year or so, but we had a terrible case of like a SIDS death in an infant, which is like crib death, which is like SIDS is sudden infant death syndrome. Although we don't know the exact mechanisms of sudden infant death syndrome, we do know that there's a few things you can do to avoid it as much as possible. And that would be not sleeping in the same bed with the child, having the infant sleep on their back without any pillows or any blankets around. Avoid sleeping on a very soft surface and avoid smoking in the home. You can greatly reduce the risk of this. So that's my PSA on SIDS. It's just, they're always terrible to have infants die in the emergency department. Yeah, probably some of the worst stuff that happens that we have here with children dying. Part of my job as the physician is to intubate, stick a tube down the throat so, we can bag the patient or put them on a ventilator. And I couldn't get it. I don't have a ton of experience intubating babies. And on my first pass, I didn't get it. I had the anesthesiologist right next to me. So then he jumped in and he got it on his. So I don't think there was like a huge delay, but that kind of affected me in that it was a child and it affected me quite a bit, and I kind of needed something to help me get my mind off of all that, and I kind of fell into this EDC hole where you start researching knife steels and you're watching every video on every steel and you're watching all the videos on what type of locking mechanism and what knife brands and what knives you want to get, and your first knife, you're looking into it, and I picked up my first one back, I picked up another Swiss Army knife. I wanted one that was black, of course, black. And I ended up picking up a climber, because it came in black. And the tool set was scissors and a knife and opener tools and a corkscrew. And I thought it was just about what I was looking for. But then I started seeing these guys having these flipper knives. And so I looked and I said, well, I finally settled on this knife is my first flipper EDC knife. And it is the Kizer Original. Here it is right here, the Kizer Original. Thumb studs, button lock, plunge lock, pocket clip, non-reversible, 154 cm. This is actually a Mojave exclusive and really good gentlemanly knife to carry as far as almost like a CEO type style with squared off edges. Smaller knife, less than 3 inches. Good flipping action. Moved with this knife, used and abused, sharpened it. Pivot came loose. So I had to buy some blue Loctite and learn how to take apart a knife, and so a really great starter knife, and I'm still very fond of it. And I like this knife quite a bit. I'm glad I got it, and I'm never going to get rid of this knife as my first EDC flipper knife. I ended up getting this for $84 at the time, and I thought it was a really good deal because 154 cm was going for over 100 at that time. I also, going down this path, EDC path, is you start buying gifts for everybody. So my wife got a whole EDC kit for her birthday that year. My mom got a whole EDC kit for Mother's Day that year. So my first knife was that Kizer Original, and so I was, kind of fond of it. But I'm more into more premium steels than even 154 cm. That's an upgraded steel, of course, but still not what it considered a premium steel. And I don't know if a lot of people would think S35VN is a premium steel, but they do make these Kizer XLs that came a little more premium. These ones actually have S35VN. So this is the Kizer Original XL and S35VN, closer to a 3.5-inch blade, a milled titanium clip. I've used and abused this knife. You can see all the snail trails all over my titanium handle there, and I like this knife quite a bit as well. I thought maybe I'd flame the titanium to darken it up a bit, but I just wasn't successful when I did that in the past, and I think it's just fine. I like it just fine. But that's the Kizer Original XL with a plunge lock. They have new Kizer Originals out now that have a crossbar lock. I'm hoping they come out with those in a top lineup liner lock, so I can pick that up from Kizer. But a huge Kizer fan, rarely disappointed by Kizer knives, especially not my original and not my original XL for sure. I unboxed this in my video. I'll link to it below, but for my Cyber Week and Black Friday deals. But this is the Kizer T1 in D2. Really ergonomic handle, 3.5-inch blade of D2 steel, blacked out, of course, G10 handles. This one does have a reversible pocket clip unlike the others. Really like this knife quite a bit with the feel of it. It's got jimping up on the top up here if you really want to do a pinch grip and get some jimping up there. Reach out here and grab some jimping there and jimping here. It's pretty grippy jimping. Not really a box shredder. I tried to cut open some boxes with this, break down some boxes. It did not last very long. I don't know if it's the blade or if it's the blade geometry. I'm going to sharpen it up and see if it gets any better. Kind of disappointing that in that respect as far as the factory blade edge. Not going to knock off too many points for that for a D2 knife, but I was hoping it would be better. All right, now I got another. I'll unbox this. This is the Kizer Drop Bear. I've been very interested in a drop bear for some time. I've wanted to try one out. They really haven't come out until recently with the top liner lock. And then the two top liner locks they'd come out with were a green handle and a blue handle, and of course I have to have all. And so I was waiting for a drop bear top liner lock to come out in all black. This is as close as I'm going to get for right now, and I saw it, and when they dropped this one, and I just really felt like I had to have it. So let's get this open up and check it out. All right, like I said, here's that Kizer Drop Bear. Comes in this very giftable box. Kizer Drop Bear 2, Azo design, 2.96-inch blade, made in China, Nitro V, matte DLC blade, and it's called a Vortex micarta handle with a button liner lock. Paperwork, we got that cleaning cloth, we got some stickers, we got some extra hardware. All right, let's get this knife out of the bag. There it is, the Kizer Drop Bear with Vortex micarta. Look at that, very grippy, very grippy. Most grippy micarta I own. I can feel those circles in there gripping onto me. There's that top liner lock, lanyard hole, reversible pocket clip, deep carry. See that flipping action? Oh yeah, great detent, sheep's foot blade, very smooth, very smooth. Huge fan of that. I'd say medium detent, perfect amount for a flipper like me. The other ones to compare, I got a pretty good angle here, sorry about that. Here it is next to that Kizer Original. So about the same size, but of course we're talking about plunge lock, more CEO style. Handle's about the same, blade length's about the same. Then here's the larger Kizer Original XL, over 3-inch blade. And then you can see it next to the Kizer T1 top liner lock, smaller blade than that one. Nitro V, which is not so awesome. I would have paid more to have it be S35VN or even something better than that even. Very impressed, and I think this knife looks very cool, and I'm liking it quite a bit. You know, Metal Complex talks about his Excalibur knife. He designed it and called it his Excalibur. But before that, he had this philosophy of what would be my perfect knife. What would be the Excalibur knife that I could? And he has some influences that he went, and one of his is a Shaman, which I enjoy the Shaman quite a bit, but one of my influences is definitely going to be the Kizer Original, my first knife, and so it would have to have some squared off edges, I would believe, to kind of match my first knife. My entry into the knife since would be my Excalibur knife would have some lines like that. So that's all I have for today. Pretty short video. Not a ton of medical stuff. I'm here in the call room. A little bit about my EDC journey and my first EDC knife. What was your first EDC knife? How did you get into everyday carry? What was your first flipper knife that you consider your first EDC knife? Let me know down in the comments, and I will see you on the next one. Farewell.